Back in early 2020, the Tested team and I flew to New Zealand to visit our friends at Wētā Workshop as they embarked on their most ambitious project yet, a sprawling, immersive exhibition celebrating the design ingenuity, the creative genius, and the incredible problem solving that Richard Taylor and his team at Wētā Workshop have made world famous. At the time, the code name for this project was Make Believe. Tested and I embedded with Richard and his team, watching them build these enchanting environments, covering on the ground the creative problem solving and the incredible hard work it takes to put on an exhibition of this scale. Now, the exhibition called Wētā Workshop Unleashed is open for public display in Auckland, New Zealand, and I cannot wait to go see it in person. It's still gonna be a little bit, but for now, let's go back and visit me in early 2020. Ben, tell me where we are and what you're about to show me.
Okay. Well, this is the LBE department, location-based experience for Wētā Workshop, and this is the war room for Make Believe.
Okay, why do you call this the war room?
Well, I guess that's a rough word to use, war room, but it does sometimes feel like that. We just use this where we lay out all of the concepts as we're just sort of working through, and we do lay out a lot of plans, and it does feel like a battle in some ways, like sort of plotting out how the experience works through all the way.
And it's a battle that's both aesthetic and narrative. You're trying to figure out the best way to tell the story. So you put the stuff up and then you argue about it?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what happens?
And then and there's also budgets. And there's all these things that you got to consider, and it's in the time of the visitation and crowding and congestion and all of that stuff.
So this room probably doesn't look the same at the beginning or end of any given day, right?
It changes often.
Moving.
Yeah, things get cut, things get added, things move. It's a totally evolving process that we work through.
All right, well, can you walk me through it as it currently stands?
Sure. So basically, we've got about 1,400 square meters inside Sky City in Auckland, 2,000 total, but the rest is retail and everything like that. So the internal experience is about 1,400 square meters. And we start just outside of the casinos. You walk across the Sky Bridge and you come into a facade of Wētā Workshop. So this is just an early sketch that Richard did. What we want there is to show just a very plain facade of a building and a little red door that you go into.
Like no idea what magic lies inside.
No, and it's sort of like just a hint of things are going on. Yeah. On the opposite wall behind you is a huge mural that is showing all of those explosions coming out of the door as you go through. But anyway, you enter in through the facade and you end up in a room that is full from ceiling to floor to ceiling with cardboard boxes. And the cardboard boxes are all of the film props that Richard and Tanya have collected since they started their company. So these are just little boxes piled up to the ceiling, and on each one is a Sharpie written what's in it and Polaroid cameras. And the host will take you in and explain to you that she's very sorry that you've got to come in through the back room like this. But, we had a little accident with the front door. And then she will go about to tell you a quick history of Wētā Workshop using a flashlight, shining on some of the objects. This is when we did Meet the Feebles. This is a little bit of a potted history, so to speak. Yeah. Then she'll take out a box cutter and cut open one of the largest boxes and open the door on that box.
Just right there, I'm so happy about this. This is exactly what visiting Wētā Workshop is exactly like.
When she does that, out of that box will spill some packing peanuts, like the polystyrene peanuts. And as you walk through a tunnel of peanuts, they will get larger and larger and larger until suddenly you're in a ginormous box, completely full of giant polystyrene peanuts. And sticking out of that will be a few random objects, like the hilt of an oversized sword. And you walk up a ramp, which is along here. So this is this box here, and you come up this ramp here. And the ramp on all the walls is packing peanuts up to the ceiling. Yeah. Except we've got 6 meter high. So here goes some of the packing peanuts through here. This is a projection face. So the top of the box will peel like it's opening, and then through the projection, we'll start to do some footage from the 3 films you're about to see. So as you walk through the box, there'll be this intercut of sort of dailies. So there'll be clapperboards, you know.
A little like an overture.
An overture of what you're about to see.
Yeah.
So you walk up to the top of the ramp, and then the cardboard box opens, and you walk into the briefing room. The briefing room is a hexagonal room like this, and on one side is a closed metal booth. Mm-hmm. On the other side is a bunch of collectibles from Wētā Workshop.
Okay.
And this booth will open up to reveal Jeff. Jeff's the Wētā Workshop supervisor,
yeah,
and he's also the receptionist. And behind him is windows that are showing people working on a workshop floor. And above him are a bunch of security monitors, which will have footage from Wētā Workshop here.
Sure.
But it'll be slightly different footage. So there might be an occasional orc.
Right.
Jeff himself is an orc. He's a animatronic orc, of course. And could be a bit of dragon fire, and could be this and whatever. And we'll get that real footage here, but we'll also have Richard in there running around like he does at the workshop, overseeing everything, covered in mud, you know, throwing stuff in.
Yeah.
He will become aware of the fact that something's going on in this, Richard will, and he'll run up and grab the camera and interrupt Jeff, which will be convenient because Jeff will be a shitty actor because he's an animatronic. Yeah. Richard will tell him to shut up, don't listen to him, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So Jeff will turn around, and that will enable us to see that the back of his head is completely open, so you can see the animatronics within, because we want to show all of that.
You're always peeling behind the curtain, but showing us what's behind.
Always peeling behind the curtain, showing what's behind. Richard will give you the overview, the briefing, and the basic premise of this is that you're in a fantasy Wētā Workshop where we're working on 3 make-believe films. And these films, there's a fantasy, a horror film, a fantasy film, and a sci-fi film. They will have names. So we've worked out the scripts for all of them. There's Fauna, which is a sort of homegrown New Zealand horror film about a native New Zealand monster. Then there is Age of the Elder Herd, which is the fantasy film. Mm-hmm. And then you get into From Above, which is the sci-fi film. So talk through all those films. Right now, the crew's on break, and you'll see the crew all go away.
Okay.
So you're invited to come on down and take this in. So then this door on the other side will open up and reveal this long corridor running down the ramp down the other side. And on that is a line of doors with windows and then round circular windows, similar to the one that you entered at the front. And in each one of those windows, you'll see silhouettes of the different departments of Wētā Workshop doing their thing. At the bottom, there's a miniature door for miniatures. And then opposite at the end is another corridor with a square door. And behind that, there's another corridor with doors going on, which would be a screen, and we'll have the crew and dogs and everything working on foot through there. And 2 dog doors on each side, because Wētā Workshop's really into dogs.
So am I.
So from there you enter into, so what you're seeing here is our concepts for the horror film. So you can see briefly the development of
the monster.
It's got elements of New Zealand native creatures in it. We've got from early sketches, early concept sketches, through to our sort of visualization in the model there.
Wow.
Within that, there are things like an operation game, which is an autopsy where you pull the organs out of the monster.
No, where you can physically handle.
Physically, yeah. So just like the old operation game, but you pull it out.
Amazing.
This is down there is the sound booths where you're mixing the sound, and you're inside the monster's head. We have this giant animatronic, stuff like that.
Another monster, so there's, wow, okay.
Yep. You're making your way towards the actual set, which we've built. And on that set, the last thing you do is prosthetics, where you get your makeup and you go
noticed this
makeup
weird
mirrors.
Guy here.
Yeah. So we've casted Adam Savage to be the victim of the movie.
The first death. It's a great honor.
So we need him to be put into, to be one of the displays within the prosthetic areas. And that is a depiction of the makeup of the...
My face torn apart by the attack. Excellent. Always wanted such a thing.
That will be the centerpiece, and around the walls of this cage we'll have all of our face casts.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we'll also have like Snapchat type mirrors where there'll be the storyboards from the various scenes where you can put yourself into the scenes. So
amazing.
From there, you get the option, if you're brave enough, to go on set, which is the horror film, which is a straight up horror house walkthrough experience.
And it'll feel like a super immersive, genuinely scary.
Yeah. And that's where we'll film the footage that you would have seen at the beginning. And there is the finished animatronic jump scare monster in that room. So it's developed through.
So that's fauna.
That's fauna.
Okay.
And if you didn't have courage for that, you could have opted to take the left and go straight down the garden path into fantasy.
Nice.
Which is good for the people who are a little bit scared. That will take you down a little gnome path. Johnny Fraser Allen has designed gnomes and guinea pigs.
Yeah.
And it'll take you into the garden shed, which is the concept artist shed, where we'll have all of the maquettes where he's been building and developing the dragon wizards, which is this race of dinosaurs that, because the meteorite didn't hit, did not become extinct and developed into fully sentient beings. So you can see our development of this world across here. And halfway through that shed, Johnny himself is slumped over a maquette he's been working on asleep. So there's another mannequin.
He's overworked. Okay.
And you can see where he is carving the maquette of this castle battle scene.
Yeah.
And as you step out of the shed, suddenly you end up on the table. And Johnny himself is up above you at scale like that. And you're stepping onto a cutting board. We'll have projections of some of the artwork up on the wall above you. The back wall of that is all clay with a hole cut through it. And as you emerge through that hole, you end up.
And now you're a giant.
You are now a giant in the miniature set.
I love the fact that you're playing with the abstraction and then surprising the audience with the concrete.
We're constantly playing with scale.
And that's thrilling, because the moment you're standing on a set in which you're the biggest thing, the illusion feels totally real.
Yeah.
And it's totally immersive. That's going to be thrilling.
Yeah. And you come through that, and you come out the other side behind. As you come behind the miniature, you see that it's still in the process of being built.
Right.
And then you come out into the world crafting space. So the world crafting space is where we're building this world. So there'll be the sword making area where you can pick up, try out swords. You can see stunt swords and hero swords.
You feel the difference between
plastics,
them.
you'll feel them. Then there'll be shields where you can test and hit it with a Eurofan shield. There'll be a whole costume area where you can try on chainmail. And there'll be a central crafting table with 8 booths where you can sculpt clay maquettes, or you can do illustrations. And back to sort of how we're working with Gino from Wētā Digital to...
Gino Acevedo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to work out how you do texturing of these creatures. So we'll set up a simplified process so you can take the raw character and give it the scales and the feathers and the armor and the weapons, and you can create your own character.
I particularly love this because when I go to any kind of exhibit that takes me on a deep dive, it always makes me want to get my hands dirty.
Yeah, and you can. That's the whole point.
That's great.
Above that, we'll have a bunch of screens hanging underneath this giant chandelier, which will be a sort of bust of one of these creatures, and we'll do footage of crafting. So as you come around the space, the first thing you'll see is Wētā Workshop people crafting. And incidentally, that is the window where Jeff is sitting. So the people that are coming in are looking down on people working at a workshop for the movie through there. And we'll build a life-size piece of the castle. Yeah. So the backside of Jeff's booth is the life-size castle through there.
That's awesome. Okay, so
again, scale gets flipped and you get messed and set on your head and everything like that.
And that's fantasy.
That's fantasy. And there's a black curtain running down one side of this area, and there's a little sign above it saying on air. So you step behind the curtain, you go down a little path of the curtain, and you come out behind the camera crew that are in the SciFi area working on the film from above.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so this whole area is one giant set where we're building a 1/3 scale bigature of a robot. So she's 5.5 meters tall. So in reality, she'd be 18 to 20 meters tall, sitting down.
Wow.
And she's a full animatronic. She is captured underneath Rangitoto, which is the volcanic mountain in Auckland, where she was trapped in lava trying to save mankind. So there are hieroglyphs all over the walls where the humans have carved because she becomes a deity, but she is an alien creature. So her face will open up. She's a giant animatronic. The lights come on her eyes. She lifts her hand. She fires a ray of light at the spaceship, which is opposite her. So I don't even have a nice picture of it. Here we go.
And all of this, you're actually seeing the director and the crew filming this. Is that correct?
No, it's an empty. Always, it's an empty set. There are no people here other than the guides that will be working with you, who will be dressed as crew. But basically, you'll see the camera monitors, the camera crane, the set carts, the video session. There'll be the air that you go through, along with all the storyboards and script and story to tell you what it is that you're working on.
I love this, because being on a set, when you visit a large set, and then you get to see it, and then you see what the camera sees. It's always a really thrilling. That's awesome.
So in each stage, we're putting more of the set. So in horror, it's just mainly workshop. In fantasy, you go through the big miniature, but then it's workshop. In sci-fi, it's all about the set that's all ready to go. So we'll have the giant robot's hand at full scale as well, which will be big enough to sit in. And we'll have the props table where we'll have the piece that you can stick into it to activate the robot. And then there'll be a hole in the cave in the rockwork underneath the spaceship where you can go under the spaceship, and there'll be a door opens up into a fully black room. And the black room, suddenly the lights will come on, and it will be the synapses of the brain. So all around you, all the lights can, and now you've actually got shrunk down to the cellular level, and you are inside the brain of Richard Taylor. It all fires around.
We've all been there.
And then Richard opens his eyes, which will be the projection screen at the front, and you'll be looking in, and you're now in the workshop in Richard's brain as he walks through the workshop. And we do a sort of 3-minute music video of the love of making and what it is that we're creating. And the door opens up and a bunch of synapses fire down. The lights take you out the pathway out to retail.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, at this stage where you have so much of the narrative built, are you getting antsy to start being able to walk through pieces of this?
Yes. And not as antsy as Richard.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
So the great thing for Richard is that he owns the company, and he's got so much resource at his disposal. So unlike all the jobs that I've ever done in the past where you plot it all out on paper, you plan it, and finally you make it all in one go, we've actually been building it all over the workshop. So there are horror cages down the road. There's the ramp up. There is the concept artist shed has been built.
So it's all happening currently.
It's happening all over it. We've got monsters being built down in prosthetics. Woodwork has got the collectibles cases going around. And it's all in process. We've built the armory, so there's a forge already in there, and so it's all go.
This is going to be amazing. Ben, thank you so much for the walkthrough.
Hey,
I really appreciate it. I can't wait to check back in a few months.